Hi, my name is Nicole. Welcome to my channel, Travel to Money. In this video, I'm going to take you on my latest adventure of turning a rental house into a vacation rental like an Airbnb or a VRBO. I'll cover what to look for, what to ask for in the contract, and in the end, I'll go over how to determine what your profit will be. If you are new here, I have created this channel to help you learn about how to travel, adventure, and have fun on the road to financial independence. I have traveled the world, paid off a house in Spain, and I've made big moves toward financial independence. I believe that the road to financial freedom can and should be fun. I hope that you'll subscribe and join me on this journey, no matter where you are starting from. If you've followed my channel for a while now, you'll know that I have owned a couple of homes and that I've rented out on Airbnb, one near Orlando, Florida, and another in Spain. The one I had outside of Orlando rented very well, and I was making quite a profit, but at an opportune time, I sold the house. It was such a good opportunity for ongoing profit, and since then, I've been interested in finding the right opportunity to manage another vacation rental. It's a bit of work on the front end, but I designed a way that made it minimal work while turning quite a bit of profit. I really don't want to get into home ownership at the moment, especially in the US, so I'm going to show you how you can take a rental property and turn it into a vacation rental that makes money. First, let's talk about finding a property, what to look for, and where to look. Recently, I found a house on Facebook Marketplace that is exactly what I was looking for. First of all, the location is within 5 minutes of a major theme park in Orlando. Secondly, it has private lake access. The main house has 4 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms. Attached to the house with a separate entrance is a 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom apartment. I specifically liked looking on Facebook Marketplace because I was less likely to have to deal with a realtor and more likely to deal directly with an owner or landlord. I obviously appreciate realtors, but in this case, it is much better if I can negotiate directly with an owner or landlord. There are lots of sites out there where you can find rentals, but I highly recommend using something like Facebook Marketplace where you have a better chance of speaking directly with an owner. Next, we get into negotiations. I messaged the person who turned out to be the landlord and I made an offer. I probably should have just started by asking if I could rent out the house as an Airbnb, but instead I offered to pay the rent plus a small percentage of the Airbnb earnings if they allowed me to rent out the main house on Airbnb while I live in the 1-bedroom apartment. One benefit to the owner is that because I'm using it as a short-term rental property, they know I will be keeping the house in excellent condition. It is always important to point out the incentives for the other person you are negotiating with. The landlord spoke to the owner and got back to me with a yes. I went to see the property, and although the neighborhood is a great location and is safe, there is no HOA. So some of the houses in the neighborhood look amazing and some of them could be better taken care of. The main downside to not being in an area with an HOA is that people can do whatever they want on their property. Some of the neighbors to this property keep multiple cars on their lawn, and that is the biggest downside I can see. Overall, I don't like to have to answer to an HOA or pay for it, so I generally try to avoid them because it is one less level of red tape I have to deal with. Once I determined that I did in fact want to try to rent this house and turn it into a vacation rental, then began more negotiations. I haven't always been the best negotiator in the past, but I've learned that it's important to just ask for what you want, as long as it's within reason. And in situations like this, where you can negotiate directly with a landlord or owner, get creative. Some of the things that were important to me in the negotiation of this rental contract were making sure that although I may be responsible for ongoing maintenance or any damage caused by myself or guests, it is important that I am not responsible for anything structural or for replacement of any major appliances. One of the benefits to renting over buying is that the owner is responsible for those big things. It's important that you review your contracts carefully for these details. You don't want to be in a 1-year rental and end up having to pay to replace a $5,000 air conditioner. An example of creativity in my case was the lake access. The house has private lake access, but the dock was damaged. I didn't want to end up in a contract not knowing if the dock would ever be repaired, and I know that dock access is a big deal for potential renters on Airbnb. So I said I want my rent to be $200 less per month until the dock is fixed. And what do you know? They agreed. That way, I have some savings in the meantime, and I've given the owner incentive to actually get it fixed. If it doesn't get fixed, I end up saving over $2,000 over the course of my lease. Because I am investing in furnishing the house for the purpose of being an Airbnb, I also understand that the lease term of 1 year will mean a limited profit. I went to the landlord and asked for something in the contract that shows I could opt to continue the lease for a second and third year at the same rate in order to protect my investment. We came to an agreement on the second year rate being protected. After the negotiations come the application, and once approved, there is a review and signing of the lease agreement. Then comes the fun part, getting your rental property ready to be an Airbnb, which is what I'm in the middle of doing at the moment. I forgot to mention before that I also asked the landlord if it was okay for me to rent out the studio apartment on Airbnb as well, instead of living there, which they were fine with. It's always good to keep your options open. So now I have 2 houses that need to be furnished, and I need to do it quickly. The sooner you get your listing up, the sooner you can start making money. Because I've owned an Airbnb before, I'm familiar with this process. I'm currently building a course on vacation rental success, and one portion of it will go over all the tips and tricks for getting a house ready, what things you want to order, where to do your shopping, and a specific list of recommendations and links. You can sign up to receive updates on my website, traveltomoney.com. After you finish furnishing the house and making it look beautiful, it's time to take photos of the property and write a really good listing. All of these elements are important to having a successful listing. I'll be filming over the next couple of weeks so that you all can see each step of my process, what the house looks like now, and what it will look like when it's ready to be listed. Now, let's talk about the money side of things. The math has to make sense. You don't want to put in all of this work just to break even. Every rental is different, so it doesn't necessarily have to be an expensive rental for it to make a profit. You just need to look at how much it will cost you to rent and maintain the property, and then how much you think it will rent for on a nightly basis. When you do this math, don't make the mistake of assuming that you will be booked 100% of the time. That's just not realistic. Now, I operate in the Orlando area, which is a major tourist destination. The last house I rented out on Airbnb and VRBO had a booking rate of over 90%. I know that number will be easy to maintain with this new house that it's just minutes away from a major theme park, but when I'm doing my numbers, I always want to make sure I'm being conservative. I would rather underestimate my profits and have extra income than overestimate my profits and be regretting that later. Now, the rent in this dual house for me is $2,800 per month. The first house has 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, and has a partial lake view. I looked at other Airbnb listings in the area, and there weren't really any comparable houses that were this close to the theme park. There were 2 other houses that were about the same distance from the theme park, but they were much newer and nicer houses. Those houses were listed for over $600 per night. I also knew that 5 years ago, I was renting out my 3-bedroom house almost an hour away from theme parks for about $150 per night. My estimate for the main living area of this new house would be between $250 and $300 per night. At an 80% occupancy rate, that means that I would bring in about $6,000 per month on the main part of the house at a minimum if it was only going for $250 per night. Now, if I'm able to bring in $300 per night at a 90% occupancy rate, which I believe will be more of the norm, that means I will bring in about $8,000 per month. Now, we have to deduct the rent, which is $2,800, and the utilities, which will likely be around $500 per month. So at minimum, my profit would be $2,700 per month, but I'm expecting on a more average month for my profit to be closer to $4,800. And that's just renting out the main house. That doesn't even include renting out the 1-bedroom apartment. Of course, I did my research on what the 1-bedroom would go for. I believe it should rent for at least $100 per night. At an 80% occupancy rate, that comes to $2,400 per month. At a 90% occupancy rate, which is closer to what I'm expecting, it will be $2,700 per month. Now, let's look at the total profit if I decide to rent out both houses. In a worst case scenario, my profit after the rent and utilities are paid at the minimum amount I would get per night and an 80% occupancy rate, which is lower than my norm, I would still profit $5,100 per month. What I'm expecting to be more of the norm is a slightly higher nightly rate and a 90% occupancy rate, which would mean a profit of $7,500 per month. One rental property, $7,500 per month. Within 1 month of operating, all of the initial costs are covered and the house will already be making a profit. I did a lot of work on my first Airbnb to streamline the process and make my daily involvement minimal. I will be incorporating all of these same practices with the new rental, which will save me time, which is the whole reason I want to make money in the first place, to have more free time, because time is the most limited asset I have. If you're like me and you want to make more money but free up more time to travel and see all that this world has to offer, make sure you like this video and subscribe to join me every Sunday, where travel and adventure build financial freedom. I can't wait to see where your dreams will take you. Now, I gotta go because I got a house to furnish.